everyone, it's Eric here. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the new Warhammer The Old World article, and this time it's all about the shooting phase and how damage works. So the article starts off with some examples of shooting profiles or weapon profiles from the new game, and I'm really happy to say this looks just like the old rules. It's the same kind of strength and armor piercing values, the same range, the same kind of special rules, and I'm really happy to see this. I'm glad they haven't changed it at all, at least from what I can tell so far. And if you look at the catapult special rules, you can see it has 7 different special rules, which I think is pretty it's pretty hardcore, which I think is pretty cool. And we see different kind of special rules like volley fire, which appears to be new. And I think it's interesting that this was kind of a term used in the Warhammer Armies project, which was kind of like the unofficial kind of rules after fantasy was done away with. Somebody made an unofficial kind of 9th edition, so to speak. It was called the Warhammer Armies project, and I know a term in the shooting phase in that game is called volley fire. So now it's interesting to see that they're bringing it back. Although they've changed a rule where units can only normally shoot in the first rank, unless they have the keyword that says volley fire, then they can shoot in 2 ranks. So that's interesting to see. Whereas before it was pretty much any unit could shoot in 2 ranks. It didn't matter what weapon they had, but now they made a little distinction. So that's interesting. I kind of feel like most basic ranged units will have the volley fire keyword, like any kind of handgun or bow or crossbow, but we'll have to see. All right, roll to hit. So yeah, it's like I said before, this is just like what it used to be. It's not like the new 40k or Age of Sigmar. It is the ballistic skill, which used to be called bow skill, but then was changed to ballistic skill, is now based off of 1 to 10, with 10 being higher, or the higher the number, the better shot you are. So the way it works was, if you had a ballistic skill of 1, you need a 6+ to hit. At ballistic skill 2, you need a 5+, and ballistic skill 4, you need a 3+, and then 5+, you need a 2+. And then you can have a ballistic skill of 6 or higher. So it was like if you had a ballistic skill of 7, you need a 2+ to hit, but then if you rolled a 1 and you missed, you could roll another dice, and if you got a 5+, you would hit. So it really drastically increases the odds that you'll hit. And here we can see the old charts have returned. So like in older 40k and older fantasy, you always would compare your strength to the target's toughness, and then you'd see, oh, well, I'm strength 3 against a toughness 3, so you need a 4+. And it was pretty simple. If your weapon strength was the same as the opponent's toughness, you need a 4+. If it was 1 less, you need a 3+. If it was 1 above, you need a 5+. And if it was 2 above, or if the opponent's toughness was 2 more than your strength, you need a 6+, and so on. If the opponent's toughness was 2 less than your strength, you need a 2+. And it was the case where if your attack wasn't strong enough, you just didn't have a chance to even injure whatever you're fighting. So I'm glad to see that this is returning. This is a very old school mechanic now, but yeah, they're really preserving everything that was the original rule set, which I'm very happy about. I'm getting major nostalgia vibes, and I'm just really, really happy to see this. I'm glad they're not overly modernizing the rules when they don't have to, but I see they are kind of incorporating some new design mechanics into the rules, like these kind of special rules with the unit profiles. And I know one thing that always kind of bugged me about Age of Sigmar was that the to hit roll and the to wound roll was always just kind of incorporated or baked into the native stat line of whatever weapon your character was using, which I kind of thought was odd, because if it's a fixed roll to hit and a fixed roll to wound, then why not just roll 1 dice and just call that the do damage dice? Does your attack do damage? Then just roll 1 dice, as opposed to you have to roll 2 dice in Age of Sigmar. But in fantasy, you have 2 different skills, and those kind of dynamically interact with your opponent's toughness and weapon skill. So that way you could have different dynamics. Like, let's say your character has a really low weapon skill but is really strong, like an ogre or a giant or something. So maybe they have like a weapon skill of 3 but like a strength of 5 against your opponent who is really skilled, like an elf or something. Like, say they have a weapon skill of 7 but then they only have like a toughness of 3. So I mean, your ogre would need like a 5+ to hit, but only like a 2+ to wound. Whereas in Age of Sigmar, you know, it's all just like, well, we need a 4+ to hit and a 3+ to wound against everything. So, and I know they kind of compensate that with the fact that different units have more wounds than in fantasy. So, but yeah, I like this mechanic better. It kind of just makes more sense, and it doesn't seem overly redundant. And also, they're basically talking about how magic missiles, which used to be a part of the magic phase, which has been kind of phased out in this new edition, is going to be incorporated into the shooting phase. So any kind of vortex or magical missile is now like kind of like a shooting attack, but it still uses like casting values and stuff like that. So it's not like in the new 40k where you just rolled a hit with your unit. I think that's how that works. But yeah, I think this makes sense to put magic missiles in the shooting phase. I haven't played this new edition yet, so I'll have to wait and find out if it really works. But overall, super happy that they're really remaining true to the original rules, and I think anyone who was a fan of Warhammer Fantasy will be right at home with these new rules. And we'll have to wait and see what they're going to bring out next. I think next they're going to reveal close combat, but we already kind of know how the to wound system is going to work now, and I'm pretty sure that's probably going to be the same as it is for shooting for close combat. So really nice to see. I hope you guys are getting ready and painting your old world stuff right now if you can. But if you like my content, please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.